What's up, guys? John Bird III here. We're back again for another video. And in today's video, we're going to talk about the best jig rod that Lew's has to offer. So this will be good for skipping docks, flipping up shallow and cypress trees, throwing a football jig, skipping jig, whatever type of jig you like to throw, this is going to be it. And we got the setups right here. And we went back to the OG look from when I first started the channel, but that's just for the moment. But before we jump into this video, I want to talk about a tournament that's coming up on Lake Murray on August 24th. It's a benefit tournament that a local hammer around here, Mr. Stan Gunner, he puts on every year. And it's to help support a ministry called A Place for Us Ministries. And normally all the money goes back towards to help the ministry because they have like a mission, I guess, facility down in Nicaragua. And they down there always just helping the local communities, help people get back on their feet and stuff like that. And so normally all the proceeds goes towards that, but this year they're actually digging a well down there, and so all the proceeds for this money that we collect, or that's going to be collected during this tournament, is going to go to help dig the well down there to help support them as they do gardening and a whole bunch of different other things that they got going on down there. And it's a pretty cool deal. So you see the flyer up on the screen, make sure you sign up. I mean, it's a great tournament. I love giving back, and this is a great opportunity to not only just give back and help other people in another country, but also, I mean, it's also ministry as well. And you know, ministry is a big part of my life, and that is a big thing to me. So I'm definitely going to be fishing it. So if you're in the local area, it's going to be on Lake Murray, August 24th. Make sure you sign up. It's going to be a pretty cool deal. And who doesn't like to give back? Now, let's go ahead and jump into the combos. So my favorite all-around jig rod. Now, this rod is discontinued. I'm going to start there first. But I have two options. One of them you might still can get your hands on, and one for a fact I know you can. But I want to start off with my overall favorite rod out of the three, because I have three rods. And I'm going to tell you why. Of course, I'm going to give you the whole rundown, what I use it for, the reel, the line size, the jigs that I throw, all of that. But let's just go ahead and jump into it. So if you're an OG Lew's guy, you remember the old black and white custom speed sticks. These rods right here were fire. So this particular model is the football jig rod, and it is a 7.3 heavy power mod fast action. And this rod right here is so much fun to fish with because it has so much backbone. So when you feel that bite, or you see that line, see your line swimming off like this, you instantly, once you set the hook, it goes into that backbone. But with the mod fast action, this rod gives the right amount of play. So when that fish starts digging, you don't have to worry about like hitting the button and trying to let them pull drag anything, because it makes the rod a little bit more parabolic. And sometimes we think like fast action, extra fast action is always the way to go. And in my opinion, sometimes not 100%. And so with this rod right here, this is my favorite rod. I flip with this rod, so I put a 5/16 ounce weight, 20-pound line, a owner offset wide-gap worm hook, or the owner haymaker hook, and I put a rage bug on there, or a rage hawk, one of my favorite Strike King rage flipping baits, or the sleeper, the mock crawl. And I just go and start flipping with that thing, and I just it's gonna sound bad, but I feel for the fish whenever they bite the bait, because when I set the hook, they probably feel like Mike Tyson just punched them in the mouth. So this rod right here is awesome. And I mean the grip is awesome. So it has EVA foam, and then it has little cork accents on the back of it, and the same thing on the butt section. The rod butt is not too long, it's just right. And the rod is balanced very well, especially when you put this reel on here. So the reel that I have on here is the Team Lew's Elite TI. So yeah, this is a high dollar reel, and I'll just be honest, but the way I look at the Elite TI, and I don't know if I said this in my video when I compared the Elite TI to the Pro TI, but this is a reel that if you're going to spend the money on it, you need to use it a lot. And so I like throwing a jig, I like flipping, I like getting up shallow. So this is why I have this reel on this particular rod. Line size, I normally go 17 to 20 pounds. It really just all depends, but on here I got 20. So that is this setup. But if you can't get your hands on that rod anymore. I looked up, one of my buddies had one, and he was like, dude, you can have it. I don't really throw, I guess he said, I don't really throw more beefy, heavier rods like that. And so I was like, you sure? He was like, yeah, and I've been using it ever since. But you can still find these online right here. So this is the Team Lose Custom Pro rods. And this specific model is the Jig Worm Rod. So this is in the Ledge series, right? And so Mark Rose played a big part in the Ledge series when Lose came out with the Custom Pro series a couple years ago. Now, some of the majority of the rods in this series are discontinued as well, but there's still a handful of models that you can get your hands on. So check lose.com, check Tackle Warehouse, and just search online because you might still can find this exact rod still online. And the reason why this rod is specifically my favorite, I guess you could say, and it's hard how I rank these, but I rank the OG as number one. I mean, that's just how it is. And this is number two. But the reason why I like this one probably the most out of all three that I'm gonna show you is because of this section right here, the cork. So I'm a big fan of cork. I feel like I can hold on to it better. It just feels good with my hands wet or if they're dry. And then the EVA foam butt section, I just like the mixture of the two. And I like that it's a full grip. So that is probably one of my favorite features here on this rod. And so, but the difference between this one and the one I just showed you is this is just a 7.2 heavy mod fast. So there's an inch difference, right? So if I'm making a very, very long cast, I may lean towards the original, the OG custom speed stick, because maybe just for the extra inch, just so I can get maybe a little bit more distance. Can you really tell between the 7.2 and the 7.3 that you're getting that much more distance? Not really. I'm just be transparent. So don't let nobody out there tell you that. But with this one, the way that this rod is balanced, the way that it's put together, it actually feels a hair shorter than the 7.3, even though there is an inch difference, but you can tell a difference between the actual size of this rod, because this rod actually feels like it fishes smaller than, I guess, like in your hand lengthwise compared to the other one. The other one is just a tad bit longer. Great rod. Again, how I pick between the two is really how I'm feeling that day, but this one right here is great. I love it. It feels very good. And like I said, my favorite feature is the full grip. And I love feeling the full grip along the inside of my forearm, because that's pretty much how I hold my rods, just like that. So I love that feeling right there. But not only that, like, it's just comfortable, right? The real seat is very comfortable. I can feel the blank right here, because see, you have the exposed blank right here. So the way I hold my rods like this, I have basically my ring finger butts up against the front side of the trigger, my pinky finger on the back side. So I constantly have full contact of the blank right there. And it just feels good. And then the reel stays the same unless I just feel like putting something else on there. But lately I've been using this rod to throw like a cutter worm or a swim worm type deal, right? And I've had the Tournament Pro on here. But I know that if I need to put on the jig, and say I got a football jig tied on the other one, and I just need another jig, just a regular jig, just to go down the bank, skip up against docks, between cypress trees, stuff like that, I can tie it on this one. So if you can get your hands on this one, buy it. Do yourself a favor. Now, these are a little bit pricier than the last option that I'm going to show you, because the last option is it's probably about $100 cheaper. So these are like $269 to $289, somewhere like that. So these are a little bit more pricey, but again, if you got this rod, you will love it. It's very, very, very well balanced, and it's fun to fish with. Like I said, it has the backbone just like the OG custom speed stick. So when I lean into them, instantly you feel that backbone, but you also got the play in the tip, so you are able to fight the fish, and if they start digging, you ain't got to worry about hitting the button and doing any of that. And you ain't got to play with them. Like, this ain't no drop shot rod. It ain't flimsy and stuff like that. When you hit them, like I said, it's like Mike Tyson just punched you in your face. That's what it's gonna feel like. But again, you also got the play in there as well. And and with jig fishing, like especially up shallow, jig fishing is just so, like, I don't know how you want to describe it. It's just close quarter combat, and it gets brutal, but it is so much fun. And you just gotta love, like, especially when you're up shallow and you pull them out between cypress trees, or you skip your jig way up on their dock and you set the hook, and you know that jig way up on there, and when you set the hook, that doggone bass come up sliding up out of there. Man, it's just so much fun. So you gotta love the close quarter combat deal. CQB, gotta love that. And that is why I enjoy fishing a jig. And sometimes, like, let's just be transparent. Sometimes when you're fishing a certain particular technique like a jig and stuff like that, there are so many great jig fishermen like Andy Montgomery, Andy Morgan, I mean Hackney. There are so many great jig fishermen out there. Everybody has their favorite jig, their favorite style head. They like a certain weed guard. They like certain bait keepers on their jigs. They like certain size hooks on there. So there are so many things that goes into a jig, and everybody likes to get detailed in the jig itself, and that is very important because I have my favorite jigs and certain things that I like about a jig also, but we can't forget you got to have the right setup. Because again, jig fishing, especially up shallow, is close quarter combat. And you need a rod that can set the hook on that jig because let's be honest, a lot of jigs have, unless you're fishing a finesse jig, a lot of jigs have a beefy hook on there and you need the rod that's going to be able to, when you set the hook, that hook literally goes right into their mouth. And I mean, it's in there and you need the rod to have plenty of backbone to set the hook. And not only that, when they're in that gnarly cover, you want to snatch them up out of there because you don't got time to play with them, right? Because they can get wrapped around the dock post and all of that. So that's why you have the bigger line and stuff like that. That's why I say I use 17 to 20 and Strike King Contra or tool grade. It don't really matter. Those are the two lines that I use. So 17 pound or 20 pound. Those are the two sizes that I use. 9 times out of 10, I'm using 17. I feel like it skips a little bit better, but then depending on how thick the cover is, I go with 20. I know I ain't got nothing to worry about with the 20. So great option. But again, Custom Pro, Jig Worm Rod, the Ledge Series, full cork handle, I mean not full cork handle, but the full grip with the cork EVA foam mixture, 7.2 heavy, mod fast. Now, the one that I know you can get your hands on is the Team Lose Signature Series Mark Rose Jig Worm Rod. This is a 7.2 heavy, mod fast. Now, you can say, well, what's the difference in the Signature Series and the Ledge Series? To be honest, aside from aesthetically looking like this has the wind grip, this is a split grip, it's not really much different when you're talking about power and action. Now, the Ledge Series is just a tad bit stouter. When I say a tad, I mean it's almost isn't that much noticeable. But there's a tip that I found from an old video that was shot in the Lose headquarters with Andy Montgomery. I saw this video probably a couple years ago. So in that video, it shows where you could take two rods that are the same length, same power, same action, and you are able to see which rod has a little bit more give versus which one has more backbone. And I compared the two side by side, just the way Andy Montgomery did. And the Ledge rod has just a little bit more backbone. But I promise you, like, you can't really tell the difference. If you used to go out there fishing and you tie your jig on there and you going down the bank or whatever, you got both rods, you're not going to really be able to tell the difference between both of these. But when you do the comparison, you can see that the Ledge Series is just a tad bit stouter. And so, like I said, I lean towards that one probably the most, even over the OG Custom Speed Stick Rod. But I just like the OG Custom Speed Stick Rod because it's one of the originals. But aside from aesthetically looking, this rod, I will say, is the lightest of the three. Point blank period. You probably already realized that I have a lot of the Signature Series rods. And I just love fishing with them because of the way that they're balanced. They're balanced phenomenal, right? And y'all know I like to use lighter reels. And every year, Lose continues to put out reels that are lighter. Aside from like the Super Duty and maybe, I don't know, that's pretty much the main one. But aside from the Super Duty, like majority of reels, Lose reels are somewhere average. I say average in that 6 ounce range. And then once you start getting into like your custom lights, your Hypermax, your Pro TIs, the new Custom Pros, even the old Custom Pros, once you start getting into those, like those reels are definitely, they're in the 5, so they're a lot lighter. So this reel here, this rod here is super duper fun to fish with again. Like it has pretty much the exact same reel seat as the Custom Pro rod. And so you got full contact with the blank. And like I said, it just balanced really well. This is again, 7.2 heavy mod fast. So just like the custom pro Jig Worm Rod is a 7.2 heavy mod fast, the original OG custom speed stick rod is a 7.3 heavy mod fast. You can't tell much of a difference aside from the weight and the way that it looks. You ain't gonna be able to tell that much difference between this one and the custom pro. So why are these my favorite? You can do a lot with these rods, right? You can throw all kinds of jigs. So Andy Montgomery has a skipping jig. You can throw that one on there. There's a Hack Attack heavy cover fluorocarbon jig. You can throw that one on here. You can throw a tool grade football jig on here. You can throw the tungsten compact jig on here. And now, the wire hook that's on the tungsten compact jig is a tad bit on the light side, right? But you still can throw it on all three of these rods simply because of the mod fast action. That's why I would recommend these rods for that particular jig, because of the action. The mod fast, you have a little bit more play, right? And so if it was an extra fast, I wouldn't recommend that jig for that rod, because that instantly goes into backbone. These rods right here, they're a little bit slower. That's why I said that mod fast. So it loads a little bit slower, but it has plenty of backbone. So your typical fast to extra fast rods, that's normally the top 10 to 20% of the rod is tipped, whereas the mod fast is like 30%. So it just drops down a little bit a little bit more. And so you got a little bit more room to play with them. But again, like, it has plenty of backbone. So don't let the mod fast action in any of these rods deter you from trying them out. Like, you can throw. Now, this is the great thing about these rods, because that's why I said these are probably the best jig rods that Lew's have to offer. Now, with these rods, again, I mentioned that with the Custom Pro, I was throwing a cutter worm with that rod. You can do pretty much any like jig worm technique with all three of these rods. So you're throwing a big worm offshore, you got these. The only disadvantage I would say to throwing a big worm offshore with these rods is the 7.2, the 7.3. It's a little on the short side, right? But with the backbone in it, you can get away with it. Like, normally with a big worm, you want like a 7.5, 7.6. Those are probably the best all around, because you have a little bit more rod. And when you're making those super long bomb casts, like, you need as much rod that you can have. So when you reel down and you set the hook, the longer the rod, the more line it takes up when you do the hook set. And that is what you need when you're throwing a big worm. So when you're going down the bank, like, these are perfect. You can throw a big worm or anything like that offshore with these rods. But again, like, you want something a little bit longer. But with the backbone, you have plenty of that to be able to set the hook way out deep too. So if you don't like a long rod, 7.2 in my opinion is not long at all. 7.3 is not long at all. When you get that 7.5, 7.6, it's a little bit different. So, but if you're looking for the best all-around jig rod and you don't want a long rod, check these out. These rods are awesome. Now, if you want a rod, and I don't have one anymore, but if you want a rod that's a tad bit longer and has a lot more backbone, the 7.4 heavy Team Lew's Elite rod is a great option. Now, that rod, that's a $350 rod. That rod is pricey. So, the Signature Series, $189. Great price point. So, sub $200. Basically, you might as well say it's right at $200. But still, sub $200. Lightweight, balanced very, very well. You might ask yourself, well, why don't you use this one over the other two? Again, I leaned more so towards the Custom Pro because of the cork, and the grip technically on the cork is a little bit fatter than the Signature Series, right? But because of, I guess you could say, like, the old school, like the nostalgia type deal, like, that is why I lean towards the OG custom speed stick, because it's like one of the OG rods. And again, it feels really well. Like, the way that the trigger is contoured on the real seat is awesome. I like that. I like the way it feels. So that's it for today's video about the best jig rod that Lew's has to offer. Again, my recommendation, if you can find it, get the Custom Pro. But if you can't, don't fret. Don't be like, oh man, well, they ain't got that. I ain't gonna try it. I'm telling you, get the Mark Rose Signature Series rod. This rod here is legit. Again, $189, balanced very well, super comfortable, super lightweight. Y'all see, I got a lot of Signature Series rods. Y'all don't see me show a lot of Signature Series rods. I love that series. In my opinion, might be the best series that Lew's has to offer. And that's hard because you have the custom lights. That series is great. You have the new LFS rod series. That series is great. You have the new TP2 rod series that are only $100, and those rods are phenomenal. But for me, my fishing style, how I like to fish, and what I look for in a rod, I tend to lean more so towards these 3 rods in particular, and that's just my personal preference. So a 7.2 to 7.3, a heavy mod fast is great. If I had to pick one, and this is for availability, it's going to be the Mark Rose Signature Series rod. If I had to pick one for my comfort, as far as, because it's not uncomfortable to fish with rod, so I hope that don't sound weird, but when I have to say, if I pick one for my comfort, it's going to be the Custom Pro because I like the core. If I had to pick best out of the 3, I'm going to pick the OG Custom Speed Stick because I just like that rod in particular. Like, it is it gets into that backbone fast, and I like it. I really, really like that rod. So that's my recommendation. So make sure you go check out the Team Lew's Signature Series at lew's.com, Tackle Warehouse, Omnia. They have all these different models, so go check them out. Make sure, if you can, like, again, check to see if you can find the Custom Pro rod. Let me know in the comments, what is your go-to jig rod? That's what I want to know. What's your go-to jig rod? Let me know in the comment section. Let me know the model, the brand, the model, the length, the power, and the action. Let me know what's your favorite jig rod. Because who knows? I may pick it up. But I doubt it because these 3 are my favorites. So, but anyway, I'm JB3. I got to get back to living the dream. I'll catch you later.